Area of the country has a ton of Bigfoot reports out of it, dating back into the 1800s. I have personally spoken to a dozen or two people that have seen Sasquatches in this area. One fisherman found footprints. They were about 13 inches.
In the dense, unnaturally perfect rows of cedar trees that make up the parallel forest in Lawton, Oklahoma, something extraordinary happened that would shake the very foundations of cryptozoology. What started as a casual hike on an ordinary day would become the most compelling evidence yet that we are not alone in America's wilderness. The forest that shouldn't exist. The parallel forest has always carried a reputation that makes even the bravest locals think twice before venturing too deep. Unlike the chaotic organic growth of natural woodlands, this place feels manufactured. Rows upon rows of cedar trees planted with mathematical precision, stretching endlessly in every direction. The locals whisper about it, claiming the forest has a way of twisting paths and making people forget their way home. There's something fundamentally wrong about this place, they say. Something that makes your skin crawl and your instincts scream danger.
We had no idea what it was. It was just moseying on along like it didn't have a care in the world.
But on this particular day, one hiker decided to ignore those warnings. He wasn't searching for anything supernatural, just a peaceful walk through what he thought would be scenic woodland. The morning air was crisp, the silence almost meditative. He had no idea that within minutes he would capture footage that would explode across the internet and reignite one of humanity's oldest mysteries. It happened so fast that if he had blinked, he might have missed it entirely. Through the perfectly aligned cedar trees, a massive dark figure emerged from the shadows. But this wasn't the typical blurry, indistinct shape that had characterized decades of alleged Bigfoot footage. This was different, terrifyingly different. The creature moved with a fluid, purposeful stride that was unmistakably human-like, yet impossibly large. Its gait was too smooth, too confident to be any known animal. It didn't skulk in the shadows or hide behind brush. It walked openly, almost defiantly, as if it owned these woods. The hiker's hands trembled as he fumbled for his phone, his heart hammering against his ribs as he managed to capture 9 seconds of footage that would change everything. Those 9 seconds were crystal clear. For the first time in Bigfoot research history, viewers couldn't argue about whether something was actually there. They could see it, plain as day, moving through the forest with an otherworldly grace that defied explanation. The old joke about Bigfoot always being blurry in photos suddenly wasn't funny anymore, because this footage was anything but blurry. Viral phenomenon. By sunset, the impossible had happened. The video had already surpassed 1.7 million views on TikTok, with comments flooding in from around the world. Skeptics found themselves speechless. Believers felt vindicated. Scientists scrambled to analyze every frame. The footage was coined the most convincing Bigfoot video ever captured, and for good reason. It showed something that shouldn't exist, yet clearly did. The hiker who captured the footage was forever changed by the experience. He told reporters he wouldn't return to the parallel forest without backup, and even then, he wasn't sure he'd risk it again. Whatever he had encountered out there had shaken him to his core, leaving him with the unshakable knowledge that something massive and intelligent was sharing our world. This wasn't Oklahoma's first brush with the legendary creature. Back in 2021, a state lawmaker had actually pushed for an official Bigfoot hunting season, a bill that didn't pass but sparked statewide conversation about what might be lurking in the state's vast wilderness areas. Months later, someone had offered a staggering $3 million bounty for a live capture. No one had collected it, but the offer remained on the table, a testament to how seriously some people took the possibility of Bigfoot's existence. The expedition team's breakthrough. While the Oklahoma footage was making waves online, professional researchers were having their own extraordinary encounter hundreds of miles away. The Expedition Bigfoot crew, led by seasoned investigator Russell, was conducting a systematic survey of a remote wilderness area known for unusual activity. Russell was methodically scanning the terrain through his camera lens when something caught his attention. At first glance, it appeared to be a bear, not unusual in this heavily forested region where black bears were common. But then something happened that defied every assumption Russell had about wildlife behavior. The creature suddenly stood upright on two legs, moving with a stability and purpose that no bear could match, before disappearing into the dense woodland. Russell's immediate reaction was disbelief. He had spent years in the wilderness, had encountered countless bears, and knew their behavioral patterns intimately. What he had just witnessed was something entirely different. The creature hadn't simply reared up on its hind legs the way bears occasionally do. It had stood and moved like a bipedal being, with the confident posture of something that was naturally designed to walk upright. Right on the second one in, zoom in, check that out, zoom in, it's right there, is that a bear? Russell's voice carried a mixture of excitement and confusion as he replayed the footage for his partner Zach. There's something right on that clear spot right there. It's dark, it just moved a little bit.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
Okay.
Now that doesn't look like a bear, does it?
No, it's crazy good.
That was upright.
Watch it again.
Yeah, it's walking. That is
Okay,
walking
right there.
upright.
That is bipedal, upright walking.
Even after multiple viewings, Russell couldn't reconcile what he was seeing with any known animal. The creature appeared to have been squatting, perhaps observing Russell and his crew with the calculated patience of an intelligent being studying potential threats. When it stood and walked away, it did so with a fluid motion that was distinctly human-like, yet the creature was covered in dark fur and possessed a massive frame that dwarfed any human. The analysis. Back at base camp, the entire expedition team gathered to examine Russell's footage. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Everyone knew that Russell wouldn't have called them back unless he had captured something significant. When the video began playing, the room fell silent. "So, check this out. It looks like a bear," Russell explained, his voice tight with excitement. "At first, that's what I thought I was looking at. It's just a bear until now. Watch this." As the footage played, showing the creature's smooth transition from a crouched position to standing upright, the team's expression shifted from curiosity to amazement. Mireya, the team's scientist with extensive knowledge of Bigfoot lore, was particularly struck by what she was seeing. "Those legs look long and lean," one team member observed. "I mean, that just doesn't look like they don't look like bear legs. It didn't look like a bear head either." Mireya's scientific training kicked in as she analyzed the creature's movements frame by frame. What stood out most to her was the deliberate, calculated way the creature moved its head, subtle, purposeful movements as it surveyed its surroundings before departing. The vertical head-to-floor motion was unlike anything she had observed in bear behavior studies. With her expertise, she was certain no bear could move that way, the team noted. Mireya had studied the known wildlife in the area extensively, and nothing matched the movement patterns captured in Russell's footage. To her trained eye, this wasn't just unusual. It was potentially groundbreaking evidence for Bigfoot research. The creature's behavior suggested intelligence and awareness. It had been observing the research team, possibly assessing whether they posed a threat.
Those legs look long and lean. I mean, that just doesn't look like, they don't look like bear legs.
It didn't look like a bear head either.
No.
When it decided to leave, it did so with the confident stride of an apex predator that feared nothing in its domain. The skeptic's conversion. While the expedition Bigfoot team consisted of believers and researchers, the next piece of evidence came from an unexpected source, a skeptic whose worldview was about to be shattered. Harley Owens from Tennessee was working at a sawmill on the southwest side of Virginia, near the Kentucky border, when his life changed forever. September 23, 2020, started like any other workday. Harley was putting in long hours at the remote sawmill, often working alone in the isolated mountain location. Around 1:45 p.m., he decided to take a break and walk to his service truck to grab a Coca-Cola from the cooler. The morning had been busy, and he needed to cool off in the mountain air. As he opened his drink, a low growling sound echoed from the nearby woodline. The noise was unlike anything he had heard before, deep, resonant, and unmistakably threatening. Harley scanned the forest edge but saw nothing. The strange sound left him deeply uneasy, his instincts screaming that something was very wrong. Then he heard it again. Right by me. I looked around the woods. Nothing. I heard it again, and up on the cliff, peeking out of the brush from behind a tree, there it was. What Harley saw defied everything he thought he knew about the natural world. Perched on the cliff above the sawmill, partially concealed behind a tree, was a massive, dark figure watching him with obvious intelligence. Every time Harley tried to get a better look, the creature would duck back behind cover, playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek. Harley managed to snap a photograph, but something inexplicable happened. His phone suddenly died. To this day, that phone still doesn't work properly, as if the encounter had somehow affected the device's electronics.
I looked around the woods, nothing. I heard it again, and up on the cliff peeking out of the brush from behind a tree, there it was. When I would look, it would hide. Luckily, I got a picture. I don't know how to explain it, but the phone I had then just died, and to this day that phone is still messed up and not working properly.
At first, Harley tried to rationalize what he was seeing. Growing up in Tennessee, he had encountered black bears regularly, often seeing about a dozen at the local dumps near his home. He knew bear behavior intimately, but what he was observing was nothing like any bear he had ever seen. I don't know how to explain it, but the phone I had then just died, and to this day, that phone is still messed up and not working properly, Harley later reported to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RMSO. The creature displayed a level of curiosity and intelligence that was distinctly non-animal. It seemed to be studying Harley, assessing him with the calculated patience of a thinking being. This wasn't the random behavior of wildlife. This was something far more sophisticated and unsettling. Standing 6'6" and weighing about 160 pounds, Harley was not a small man. But the creature he observed was easily bigger than me and looked like it could have snapped me like quickly. The size differential was staggering, suggesting a being of immense physical power. But the encounter was far from over. About an hour after dark, around 9:30 p.m., Harley heard vocalizations that chilled him to the bone. The sounds were unlike anything in his experience, not quite human, not quite animal, but something disturbingly in between. He managed to record these eerie calls, capturing audio evidence that would later be analyzed by researchers. The creature's presence was accompanied by an overwhelming stench of rotting eggs, a smell so distinctive and powerful that it haunted Harley long after the encounter. Bears don't produce such odors, adding another layer of mystery to an already inexplicable experience. When Harley ventured to a local restaurant to discuss his experience with longtime residents, their reaction was telling. At first, the old-timers were reluctant to speak with an outsider, but when he described what he had seen, their demeanor changed completely. They called them devil monkeys. The name sent chills down Harley's spine. It sounded sinister and dark, suggesting that local residents had been dealing with these creatures for generations. The sawmill owner had warned him that while the woods contained bears, snakes, and coyotes, there were far worse things than that in these mountains. This local knowledge added credibility to Harley's account. He wasn't the first person to encounter something unexplained in these mountains. He was simply the first to capture evidence and speak publicly about it. 2 days before his visual encounter, Harley had discovered unusual tracks about 50 to 100 yards from the sawmill. At first, he wondered who would be walking around barefoot in such remote terrain, but when he placed his size 12 boot next to the prints, they dwarfed his footwear completely. My initial thought was that it was odd. Who would be walking around barefoot? Then I put my foot beside the track and it dwarfed mine. I wear a size 12 and I was just wondering about that. I had always heard the stories about Bigfoot and the tracks, and that opened my mind to the reality of them being real. The tracks showed clear toe impressions and a stride length that suggested a bipedal creature of enormous size. For Harley, who had been a skeptic his entire life, these physical traces were the first crack in his disbelief. The mountain runner. While researchers were still analyzing Harley's evidence, another piece of footage emerged that would push the boundaries of what seemed physically possible. A man named John was filming along the Wasatch Front, a mountain range known for multiple Bigfoot sightings, when he captured something that defied explanation. From a valley at 4,200 feet elevation, John was observing a peak nearly a mile higher at around 9,000 feet. Using a spotting telescope, he filmed what appeared to be a large bipedal creature moving horizontally across the mountainside before climbing straight up the steep snow-covered slope. The sight was almost impossible to believe. The creature was moving effortlessly through approximately 90 inches of deep snow, conditions that would challenge even the most experienced mountaineers with proper equipment. Yet this being was not just walking through the snow, it was running, moving uphill with a speed and agility that seemed to mock the laws of physics. To demonstrate just how extraordinary this footage was, researchers conducted their own experiment. They took Sky, a 6-foot-tall, physically strong individual, hiking in the foothills east of Francis Peak at Hardscrabble Creek. The snow depth was only 18 inches, 5 times less than what the creature in John's footage had been navigating. Sky could barely walk normally in the 18-inch snow, let alone run. The effort required just to maintain forward momentum was exhausting. For the creature in the footage to run uphill through 90 inches of snow, it would need to be significantly taller than Sky and possess strength that bordered on superhuman. The implications were staggering.
There's something wandering across the face of that.
What kind of being could possess such physical capabilities? The creature wasn't just surviving in harsh mountain conditions. It was thriving, moving through terrain that would be impossible for humans to traverse without specialized equipment. Skeptics immediately questioned whether tracks would be visible if the creature had really been running through the snow. A helicopter pilot, fascinated by the footage, decided to fly over the mountain to investigate. What he found shocked him. The tracks were there. Although strong winds at the mountain's peak were slowly erasing the evidence, the footprints were clearly visible from the air. The trackway showed the characteristic pattern that researchers had come to associate with authentic Bigfoot evidence. Long strides with footprints positioned directly in front of each other, as if the creature were walking a tightrope. This aerial confirmation added crucial credibility to John's footage. The creature hadn't just been captured on camera. It had left physical evidence of its passage through one of the most challenging terrains on Earth. The pattern emerges. As researchers analyzed these separate incidents, a pattern began to emerge. The Oklahoma TikTok footage, Russell's expedition video, Harley's Virginia encounter, and John's mountain runner footage all shared common elements that were difficult to dismiss as coincidence. Each incident involved a large bipedal creature displaying intelligence and physical capabilities far beyond any known animal. The being showed awareness of human presence, sometimes observing from a distance before departing. They moved with confidence through terrain that would challenge even experienced outdoorsmen. Most significantly, the quality of evidence was improving. Gone were the days of blurry, indistinct images that could be dismissed as hoaxes or misidentifications. These new pieces of footage were clear, detailed, and captured by multiple independent witnesses with no apparent motive for deception. The RMSO's analysis of Harley's photograph revealed interesting details when subjected to digital enhancement. Zooming in 350% and applying various filters, researchers noticed a shimmer surrounding the creature that might have been caused by light passing through its outer layer of fur. On the right side of the head region, they could make out what appeared to be the profile of a face and nose. The organization noted that many animals are black because it provides excellent camouflage. Black absorbs light and helps creatures blend into shadows and background vegetation. But the creature in Harley's photo seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to blend with its environment while still maintaining a distinctly non-animal presence. These encounters represent more than just isolated incidents. They suggest the existence of a species that has managed to remain hidden from mainstream science while occasionally revealing itself to startled witnesses.
Looks like he's looking over top of that stuff. Look at him. He's moving. He's moving, he's moving, he's moving. Daisy, come here. Daisy, come here.
The object was very black with a pretty silver sheen to it.
The creatures display behaviors that indicate high intelligence, strategic observation of humans, deliberate concealment, and the ability to navigate complex terrain with ease. The geographic distribution of sightings, from Oklahoma to Virginia to Utah, suggests a population that spans the North American continent. These aren't random encounters with a single creature, but evidence of a species that has adapted to diverse environments while maintaining its elusive nature. Despite the mounting evidence, questions remain. How has such a large species remained hidden for so long? What is their social structure? How do they survive in harsh mountain environments? Why do they occasionally reveal themselves to humans? The answers may be closer than we think. As technology improves and more people venture into remote wilderness areas with high-quality cameras, the evidence continues to accumulate. Each new piece of footage, each photograph, each eyewitness account adds another piece to a puzzle that may finally be nearing completion. What makes these recent encounters particularly significant is the role of modern technology in capturing and preserving evidence. The Oklahoma hiker's smartphone footage was crystal clear, eliminating the traditional excuse that Bigfoot evidence is always blurry or indistinct. Russell's expedition camera captured detailed movement patterns that could be analyzed frame by frame. Harley's audio recordings preserved vocalizations that researchers could study for acoustic patterns and frequency analysis. This technological advancement has created a new paradigm in cryptozoological research. No longer can skeptics dismiss evidence based solely on poor image quality or questionable recording methods. The creatures are being documented with the same clarity and precision used to study known wildlife species.
The most likely scenario is that a population of giant terrestrial bipedal apes that had dispersed through southern and eastern Asia had expanded its range into North America.
Analysis of these encounters reveals consistent behavioral patterns that suggest intelligence and social awareness. The creatures demonstrate strategic observation. In multiple cases, the beings were observed watching humans from concealed positions, suggesting they study potential threats before deciding on a course of action. Environmental mastery. From the Oklahoma forest to Virginia mountains to Utah peaks, these creatures navigate diverse terrains with apparent ease, indicating remarkable adaptability. Avoidance tactics. When discovered, the beings typically retreat rather than confront, suggesting they prefer to remain hidden from human contact. Territorial awareness. The creatures appear in locations that offer strategic advantages, elevated positions, dense cover, and multiple escape routes. These patterns indicate a species with sophisticated survival instincts and possibly complex social structures that prioritize secrecy and self-preservation. The physical descriptions from these encounters paint a picture of beings with extraordinary capabilities. Harley's creature was easily bigger than his 6'6" frame and appeared capable of tremendous strength. The mountain runner displayed endurance and agility that would be impossible for humans, even elite athletes. The consistent reports of overwhelming odors, described as rotting eggs or other putrid smells, suggest these creatures may use scent as a defensive mechanism or territorial marker. This biological trait appears across multiple encounters, indicating it's not an isolated characteristic but a species-wide feature. As we stand at the crossroads between skepticism and belief, one thing becomes undeniably clear: the evidence is no longer hiding in the shadows. From the crystal-clear footage captured in Oklahoma's parallel forest to the mountain runner defying physics in Utah's peaks, something extraordinary is revealing itself to our modern world. These aren't the grainy, questionable images of decades past. These are high-definition glimpses into a reality that challenges everything we thought we knew about the creatures sharing our planet. The witnesses, ordinary people living ordinary lives, have given us extraordinary proof that the impossible might just be inevitable. The debate may rage on in academic halls and internet forums, but in the quiet moments when you're alone in the wilderness, listening to the sounds of the forest, you might find yourself wondering, what else is out there, watching from the tree line, waiting for the right moment to step into our world? The hunt for Bigfoot isn't ending, it's evolving. And perhaps, just perhaps, we're finally ready for what we might find. The truth, as they say, is out there. The question is, are we brave enough to face it?